This wooden basket is practical as well as good looking, and in this video, I'll show you how to make it step by step. And no, you aren't going to learn basket weaving. This is done on the scroll saw, with layers cut in a pattern to make it look like the basket was woven. Be sure to watch until the end, where I'll show you how to do the glue up without any clamps. It doesn't matter where you start on this project, so I decided to begin with the bottom, the easiest part to cut. It's an oval, and I'll use 3/8 sapele for the bottom and top. It shows a number 5 Higgis modified geometry blade because this is a simple shape with just an exterior cut. I tend to use the larger of two size choices whenever I can because the larger blade will cut more quickly. Some scrollers prefer to use the smallest blade possible. If you're new to scroll sawing and want to learn more about blade size choice, I'll leave a link to my video on blade size choice. For this external oval cut, I aim to cut on the outside of the line. My lighted magnifier helps me stay straight on the cut line, and I want to avoid leaving any flat spots on the edge, which is easy to do when cutting an oval, circle, or any long curve. You can always touch these up later with a sander, but I prefer preventing them from happening in the first place. I used scroll saw tape to attach the pattern to the wood, so when I was done cutting, it took only a fraction of a second to remove it. I'll cut the top next, which is from the same 3/8 sapele as the bottom. I don't have a local source for 3/8 hardwood, so I made my own by resawing a piece of 4/4 sapele. If you're not familiar with the process or want to learn more about it, I'll leave a link to my video on resawing. It's one of my most popular videos. The top has two handles, one at each end of the ovals and two long ends. I drilled pilot holes in my drill press. After inserting the blade, I cut from the pilot hole to the cut line, then around, and then repeated the process on the other side. Cutting out the middle section is going to leave a large waste piece, which I will stash in my small pieces collection. I refuse to call it scrap. I generate a lot of cutoffs like this, and like most woodworkers, I can't bear the thought of throwing away usable wood. Costs me $9 a board for it. I have a stack of boxes and keep the cutoffs separated by thickness. I have more than one project that calls for a 3/8 thick wood, so this piece will be used somewhere before too long. It might seem like the best place to start the cut for the outside of the top would be a point close to the edge. However, in my experience, I've learned this sometimes results in a minor bump or rough spot where you started and later stopped the cut. For that reason, I usually head for an interior spot, preferably one with a sharp point. This is a matter of personal preference, no hard and fast rule. You can start at any point that makes sense to you. The inside of the basket consists of two A and two B layers. At first glance, the difference is difficult to see, but it will become evident once we have one of each layer to place on top of the other, like they will be when we glue them together. Each layer has a series of oval shapes laid end to end that will ultimately form a large oval. The shapes of the B layer are offset from those of the A layer, so they will create a vertical pattern that fools the eye into thinking this is a box with woven sides. From the pilot hole, I cut to one of the sharp points, then across the little straight line in between two ovals. The pattern is highly repetitive, so once I progressed a short way around the oval, I was able to develop a rhythm. For some patterns, every internal cut is different, plus you are continually removing the blade, threading it through another pilot hole, then making another cut. This pattern has one long internal cut and one long external cut for each layer of the basket. I always make my internal cuts first. As I mentioned, I cut from a point along the line connecting the oval patterns. Next comes a half circle that ends in a point where the direction changes to follow a short line to the next half circle. This same pattern motif repeats all the way around the large oval side that will be formed once both the inside and outside cuts are completed. I cut the sides from basswood, something I've only worked with a few times before. The hardwood dealer where I purchased my lumber for many years was retiring and closing his business, and he was closing out all the inventory he had on hand. He had several 8-foot long 4/4 basswood boards and gave me a good price for taking all he had. This 4/4 basswood was a full 1 inch thick, so I was easily able to resaw one of the boards into two 3/8 thick pieces. Basswood is very light and quite soft, with a tendency to tear rather than cut smoothly. Remember, there's a wide range of hardness to woods in the hardwood family. The term hardwood means the lumber came from a deciduous tree and has little to do with softness and hardness. In case you slipped to class the day this was covered, deciduous means leaf bearing, as opposed to coniferous or cone bearing. You never know, someday the right answer in a trivia contest might be one of those definitions. Cutting the pattern will require patience, but even a beginner should be able to master it. Just keep following the line, and soon you'll be back at the starting point. This cut produced an odd shape, but perfectly usable waist piece. I moved on to the outside cut next. This cut is a mirror image of the inside cut, so it was done in the same manner. You need to be careful while cutting the outside for a couple of reasons. One is that with all that material missing, the entire piece becomes increasingly more fragile as you continue to remove wood from the outside. The second is that you could easily cut too far in one of those narrow spots between the ovals and damage a layer that way. Why is the tune "Break On Through to the Other Side" by the Doors going through my head? There's no need to show me cutting the B ring because it's the same as the A, except for the design being shifted slightly. There are two A rings and one B, but you could always add layers if you wanted a deeper basket. Just remember to alternate A and B rings, or the look will be lost. I use basswood, as I already explained, but you can use any wood you have on hand. I do think the use of contrasting woods for the top and bottom against the side produces a good look, but you could make the whole basket from one type of wood if you wish. Parts for the two baskets did take too long to cut, then I moved to my workbench for the tiny bit of sanding they would need. It was mostly a matter of using a piece of 150 grit sandpaper to break the sharp edges on the tops and bottoms, but the middle layers needed some sanding as well. The Pegasus modified geometry blades usually have a very smooth bottom surface, but that basswood had a tendency to tear and did not cut as cleanly as most woods. For small projects like this, I have one of those bottles of Elmer's glue that you can purchase anywhere school supplies are sold. I refill it with Tight Bond white glue, which I purchase in gallon bottles because the price is so much better. The small tip is perfect for dispensing glue in applications like this. I put a drop on each of the little ovals, spread it around with the metal tip or my finger. I used the white glue on most projects because it's water soluble and dries clear. Once the glue is applied, I put one of the A layers on top of the basket's bottom, being careful to center it on the base. Then I added the other layers one at a time. Clamping something like this can be a nightmare with F-clamps. At this stage, the glue is very slippery, and when you try to tighten the clamps, the pieces tend to move. I have found a better way to clamp in a regular shape like this is to place a piece of MDF or plywood on the workbench, put the item, or in this case items, to be glued on top of it, then place another piece of plywood or MDF on top. If you add weight to the top of the plywood, it acts as a clamp, distributing even downward pressure onto the items inside the plywood sandwich. After the glue dried, I took the baskets into my finishing room and completed them with a couple coats of warm satin polyurethane. With all the nooks and crannies on these sides, a spray finish is the most practical way to go. As I mentioned earlier, I used contrasting woods for the sides versus the bottom and top, but you could use one wood for all the parts. That's one of the things that makes woodworking great. You have so many choices. Make sure to like the video and please leave a comment. I appreciate viewer feedback and I reply to every comment. And please subscribe if you haven't already done so. These small gestures on your part make a big difference on my end.